Testing. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We're about to kick off. Without further ado, really, here, please feel free to take a seat as we get started. Thank you so much for joining the session on transforming Africa through blockchain technology. And this is a think tank which is going to be having a number of speakers, including Anzil Adams, Claire Kanja, Iman Haraway, Julian Kanjere, as well as Liba Gino from Anzur Akazi Capital. So really great to have you all. And without further ado, we will be taking questions towards the end. So please do post your questions in the chat. And for those of you in the room, we'll open up a time for questions as we do have one of the speakers here in the room to give us some of their thoughts. Let's get into it as blockchain is cutting across all industries to find out how it can transform Africa. Thank you.
Good day and welcome to another SA Innovation Summit session. Today we're talking about transforming Africa through blockchain technology. Africa has risen and blockchain is playing a pivotal role in the development and progress of the continent. And I'm sure many of you are aware of the use of cryptocurrencies, which is one of its many use cases. But to further understand better, blockchain shows the potential to enhance transparency, reduce long-standing inefficiencies and costs within multiple sectors of sub-Saharan African economies. Due to its advantages such as decentralization, security, and transparency, the potential applications of this new technology are endless. During this session, panelists will be discussing how this technology can transform Africa from various relevant standpoints, including agriculture, funding, education, amongst others. You will have the opportunity to learn of the amazing solutions businesses are offering using blockchain technology in transforming Africa. And today in this session, was that over? Daniel, we have to do it again. Joining us in this session is Libe Gino, managing partner of Akazi Capital, Iman Haraway, founder of Arabs in Blockchain, Julian Kanjere, founder of Foodprint, Anzil Adams, CEO of Data Ledger, and Claire Kanja, our moderator for this session, a MasterCard Foundation scholar at the African Leadership University. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you so much, Tarisiru, for that introduction. And I'm really excited and honored to be here today with such great panelists and great entrepreneurs who are really a true embodiment of this year's summit theme, which is expanding horizons. So through the work that they're doing, they're really doing the most in expanding the horizons and the influence and impact of blockchain technologies on the continent, And I'd just like to begin with a brief introduction, maybe to break the ice. So I'll invite our panelists to tell us a little bit about their background, particularly how they got into blockchain, and as well as the work that they're doing and how they're leveraging the power of blockchain in their various businesses. We can start with you, Anzil.
Hello, everybody. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Anzil Adams, and I'm the CEO of Data Ledger. Data Ledger was started towards the end of 2019. I initially discovered blockchain at the age of 51. I spent 20 years in the South African wine industry, selling wines all over the world. And the last 6 years, I was consulting quite widely in the RFID space on numerous projects. I then bumped into a book that was written by Don and Alex Tapscott on the blockchain revolution. And it gripped me immediately. And as a result of that, I was interested in tracking and tracing halal products because the halal economy in South Africa and on the African continent is quite a big economy. And there has been numerous scandals in South Africa where, for example, kangaroo meat was sold as certified halal meat, and people were demanding to understand the origin, of these products. I was presenting it to an investor, an early investor, and he told me about a company in Australia that was already doing something like that called Beef Ledger. And in the car, I remember in the car back from Cape Town, I called them. And within a week, we secured the rights to commercialize technology that's researched at Queensland University for the entire African continent. And that's how Data Ledger started. It's been going on for the past almost 20 months. And we've been focusing essentially in the beef sector and is currently looking at opportunities in the wine industry and also in the mining sector. My opportunity will be talking essentially and mostly of the work we're doing in agriculture around beef and wine production. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We can move over to Iman.
Thank you so much for letting me in and for inviting me. My name is Iman Harrawi from Egypt. I always introduce myself as as a woman who wears two hats. My first hat is a developer, a role I'm so proud of. So I'm a blockchain lead at Spotify, which is a platform for content management creators to digitize and monetize their work through NFT and blockchain technology. And also the ambassador to Consensus Academy, ambassador to Consensus Quantum, ambassador to this network, DevCon Scholar and Ethereum Foundation, hold a master degree, a professional master degree in Cloud Computing Network. And my second hat is community builder. So I have founded RCM Blockchain on late 2020. As an umbrella to gather all blockchain enthusiastic in the Arab region and trying to build a strong supportive community and increase the Arabic resources in blockchain domain, trying to explain blockchain opportunity topics in Arabic just to eliminate the language barrier. What attracted me to blockchain it was in late 2017. I was exploring what's trending, and I remember that I was watching a video explaining the potential impact of blockchain technology with when it's integrated with other emerging technologies like AI, IoT, and so. So I felt like, wow, this is an amazing world. I want to be part of this change. And since that time, I've been developing blockchain-based projects since 2018, and I'm so passionate about this technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that introduction. We'll move over to you, Liebe.
Hi everyone, I'm Liebe Janot, originally from Cape Town, so super proud to be part of the SA Innovation Summit. Now living in Canada, and we launched towards the end of last year a fund called the Kazi Capital, which is investing in female entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa. And so I'm the perfect example of a non-techie who is using blockchain technology to really enable our fund. It's been so eye-opening to see the application of blockchain technology, whether it's the ability to track and trace and really, be sure of the authenticity of products, or whether it's a use case such as ours, in terms of unlocking previously untapped pools of capital by bringing in people to invest in early stage ventures. So yes, just super excited about the potential of blockchain to really just radically change so many different parts of the way we live. And happy to talk about, how we're using blockchain just to open up pools of capital and invest in female entrepreneurs on the continent.
We're definitely also excited to learn more about that. So we'll move on to Julien.
Thanks, Kay. Hi everyone, my name is Julian Kanjere. My background, I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa. My background, I'm coming from a technology background, so I'm a software developer by training. I have worked in the IT space in South Africa for a number of years. I've worked for a global software provider after that, and then around about 2016, 2017, starting to have conversations about blockchain technology with friends and peers. And then I sort of made the leap at that point to just try and get a bit deeper into the space. I've recently completed my master's in financial technology at the University of Cape Town. And this master's program, one of the core components is blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. And so, for this panel, I'm excited to join in and share about some of the work that we're doing, specifically with a company that I founded, which is called Footprint. And the idea behind Footprint is to simplify data capturing and data management for smallholder farmers, using blockchain technology, and in the process helping to access markets and services. So really excited to be part of this panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your wonderful introductions. And I'd like to start with Iman. So you're doing a lot of good work around increasing awareness to blockchain technology. And my first question would be, how has the reception of blockchain technology been, especially during the forums and the events that you run, especially with the focus of people learning about blockchain for the first time? So what are their perceptions? What are their thoughts around the blockchain technology?
Thanks for this question. It's like the common problem or common misunderstanding, not only in the Arab region, but also in the entire world. It's like blockchain is a cryptocurrency, and the cryptocurrency is a blockchain. Also, one of the main challenges that we have, it's like trying to what I want to say is that explaining that there are lots of opportunities there. People are like just focusing on the investment and trading part, with neglecting or skipping the other opportunities there in blockchain domain. Also, one of the main challenges that we see, I won't say in the entire world, but it's in different local communities, that language barrier, blockchain is always explained in English, and guess what? The global the globe is not only speaking English. Yes, English is the first language, but not all. But not all the communities are speaking English as the first language. Other part, I always see that. Like it's very hard for someone to learn blockchain for the first time, to imagine how its currency, how it could be used, how to use these tools. I remember 4 days ago, I was answering a question from one of the community. It's like how it is money. Okay, and how I can spend it, and if we try to walk them through some tools that let them know how to interact with blockchain. To be honest, I'm a developer. Yes, the tools there are not user friendly, and it's acceptable because we are in the early stage of the technology, and we are developing our tools. And one of the main important points to consider is to build a user-friendly tools and to try to hide the complexity of the technology, because blockchain technology is advanced technology, and people don't see. At the point, I feel it, or I see it a lot. It's like people don't see blockchain as a fourth revolution. It's like they think that blockchain is like a tool. And we are trying to highlight, no, it's the fourth internet revolution, and it's coming, and it will be true. Other thing we noticed that people think that blockchain it's just trending and it will be like vanish after some time, and we are like trying to like highlight that no, it's not. Also, you can see like people who are so passionate about blockchain and other people who like, oh, what is this? Or I don't believe in this is like it would be true. Like lots of as I mentioned, a lot of misunderstanding of blockchain and cryptocurrency, and even that there is a lot of change happening in the space. Like when we see like blockchain network and they think it's Bitcoin or even Ethereum only, they don't like because it's changing a lot. People don't like couldn't track all the change that happen and like consolidate that blockchain is Ethereum, and guess what? Lots of other blockchain networks. So when I met some people who are interested to like get deeper in blockchain and learn blockchain technology, I started with a question. So you are interested to be a blockchain developer? They said yes. So what blockchain network you are interested in, and what's the roles? And like, yeah, a lot of questions, like which is common, and I don't think it's only for the Arab region. It's in every community. But there is an increased like interest of blockchain in the region. I can guarantee that.
Thank you so much. You raised some very interesting points that would be a good segue into the next question. The first was about the fact that there's a big disconnect between those who understand and are leveraging the power of blockchain and those who have no idea what it's about. And the second is also the fact that many discussions around blockchain are often associated with Bitcoin or cryptos or digital assets, when there's so many other use cases where blockchain can actually be used. So my next question, thank you so much for that, Iman. My next question to Anzil would be, what are some of the blockchain use cases in organizations and industries across South Africa, especially those that are outside the field of digital assets? If you could kindly shed light on that.
Thank you very much for that question, Claire. We've been involved in sort of applying and looking at the adoption of blockchain in South Africa over the past 18 months. The problem with South Africa, I think, is that blockchain is very much still in its early stages. And there is a disjuncture between, what blockchain can do and the prevalence or the preference of thinking that it is Bitcoin. And I think the reason for that is that the focus on blockchain is very much on back office design. We are more obsessed with the technology than sort of what the technology can resolve. We have been looking at two key projects in South Africa, as I mentioned earlier on. The one is in the beef sector, and the other one is in the wine industry. And in both instances, we did pilots at very highly successful companies. And what we found was that, because people don't understand the technology, and because we were selling the technology and not the problem it solved, that there was a huge resistance in terms of its adoption. Now, I've been very fortunate to have co-written a paper on the adoption, application, and regulation of blockchain in South Africa. And we looked at about 75 different existing papers on use cases in South Africa. We narrow it down. The use cases range from healthcare, agriculture, property, education, finance, of course. And we narrowed it down to 13 papers to understand what these challenges are. And what the use cases pointed out from an adoption and application and regulation point of view is that unless you involve humans as subject matter experts to sort of integrate the physical and the digital world, there will be resistance, and there will be a problem in terms of adopting technology or this technology in organizations. People are fearing their own roles whenever something new is thrusted upon them. And people will find ways and means to delay processes and not work together, in terms of rolling this technology out. In the wine industry and the beef sector, for example, there are huge challenges. We believe that if South Africa, and indeed Africa, is supposed to be competitive, that it is supply chains that needs to be digitized as competitive forces globally to make a mark in the international market. And to digitize these supply chains and to work on digitizing them, does and should involve humans. From a regulatory point of view, in South Africa, obviously now with the POPI Act, the sharing of information is crucial, and we need to understand how blockchain can be adopted and regulated from that perspective, which is new. South African companies are finding their way through the POPI Act to understand that, and so that's an additional complication. But what I want to end off with by saying is that it is not technology, that's going to transform Africa. It's the ability to integrate technology with the human aspect that is going to transform Africa. And we need to stop focusing on the technology side, and we need to focus more on the integration side as to how humans are going to be playing an effective role to secure the sustainable adoption and application of blockchain across the continent.
Wow, that's a very impressive perspective. It reminds me of a tweet I read a while back, and it said we should not focus on building apps, but rather coming up with solutions and leveraging technology to increase the scope and scale of the solution. And at this point, I'd like to reel in Julian. Your catchphrase or your business catchphrase is fresh food from farm to fork. It's a pretty catchy slogan, and it's basically around increasing transparency within the food supply chain. And my question to you would be, what would you say is the importance of blockchain at Footprint, especially from a logistics perspective?
Oh, thank you for that question. So I think just to pick up from where Ansel left off, right? So we at Footprint, we are playing within the agriculture space and specifically targeting smallholder farmers who are producing fresh produce. And the motivation for that is, a lot of times when technology and innovation happens, they are often skipped because, it's often maybe a market that is deemed to be not commercially relevant or viable, or maybe it's, there's a lot of effort that you need to invest to reach the masses and roll out a solution. So this is part of our motivation in specifically going for smallholder farmers is, there are a few big sort of solutions like IBM Food Trust and many other solutions where we felt like the South African context would possibly be missing, or maybe the African context. And so that's why we've sort of gone into that space. And the importance of blockchain, in this space, at least how we're looking at it, is number one from a record keeping point of view, and this sort of touches on this logistics aspect that if you think of a typical food supply chain, you've got multiple different steps in the supply chain with different stakeholders at the supply chain, right? So you'll have the farmer who does the planting and the growing and the harvesting. Once they're done with that, the food is sort of taken to transported to a processor who will maybe package it or aggregate the produce. Then possibly ends up at a retailer, then from a retailer to a consumer. So along these different touch points in the food supply chain, what we're trying to do with specific blockchain technology is to show that this produce has moved from this person at this point to this person at this point, and make sure that we are tracking these handovers and these movements and sort of persisting this data on the blockchain. And the idea behind this is, number one, to try and increase efficiency within the food supply chain, try and bring about some transparency and traceability for smallholder farmers, that they can become more visible in food supply chain, because they actually play a large role in food security, not just in South Africa, but in Africa as a whole. And And ultimately, I think just coming back to the point of record keeping, with smallholder farmers, because sometimes they don't have access to technology, they produce all of this food, but they have no record to show for it. And so, using Foodprint, using our platform, the idea is they have this data. They can show that over the last 2 years, this is what I've grown, this is what I've harvested, this is what I've sold it on to. And this data is persisted on the blockchain, which brings credibility to the farmer. And with that credibility, hopefully, we can unlock some value for them, unlock some opportunities for them. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And it's amazing the work that you're doing in trying to empower the farmers. And I'd like to bring in Lieb into this conversation about empowerment, because you do some great work in terms of promoting inclusivity within the venture financing space, especially enabling women and youth to really get these funds and be able to scale up their businesses. So my question to you would be, what would you say is the power of blockchain in unlocking capital for early stage venture investing?
Thanks for the question, Claire. Great to be here and listening to all of your opinions and inputs. So valuable. So the way we really see the power of blockchain is really just unlocking the power of the crowd, really. So, there are so many people around the world who want to have impact with their capital, but don't necessarily meet the criteria for being accredited investors or meeting the very high minimum ticket sizes that are necessary to, invest in VC funds or invest in impact funds. So we see the power of the blockchain technology really just enabling the crowd to participate. So, unlocking pools of capital. So say someone has $100 that they want to invest, they now have access to do so by investing in a fund such as ours. It's not that they need $200,000 to participate in the VC fund. And we think it's very important, especially for certain groups of individuals like women, millennials and Gen Zs, entrepreneurs themselves who have a little bit of capital that they'd like to put towards use. And really, blockchain technology just allows us to do so. So the way it works with our fund is we have a token which we issue, and that really becomes a share of ownership in the fund. And then as our investments increase in size and as we're able to exit our portfolio companies, we're able to put those distributions back. And that's how our investors really see the return. So really for us, blockchain is an enabler to really tap into the crowd and to make gathering smaller amounts of money across a large investor pool really possible. So that's where we see the possibility. And then even, the types of investments that we make, we're really focused on investing in companies that have impact. So, when you invest in women, really you're not only investing in that one woman, but when we look at the way women spend their money, you see investments in healthcare, you see investments in nutrition, really just bringing the community alongside them. And so that's really why it's important that we have a female founder focus. And then even, the types of businesses that we are exploring, a lot of them are in the healthcare space. So you have a lot of inclusivity on the back of that. So we just see a beautiful story that blockchain can tell about the type of impact that we can have with a fund such as ours. And just to clarify as well, we not only invest in blockchain businesses, we really invest in traditional businesses. So the blockchain piece is really how we have enabled ourselves as a fund to pool our capital.
Thank you so much for that. I'd just like to ask a follow-up question. I love that you spoke about impact and wanting to invest in companies or entrepreneurs that are really invested in the same. So my follow-up question to you would be, what criteria do you choose or do you use when choosing the kind of entrepreneurs to invest in?
Yes, so as much as we love gender diverse teams, we have a pretty set criteria for it being majority female owned or female led as businesses, and operating in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have a few target countries: South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana. But really, it's a sub-Saharan Africa focus. That's just where most of our attention is lying. And then we look at the business itself. Does it have impact at the heart of the way they operate, and impact in the types of products they're offering their consumers? So really, we're looking for businesses that are, have the potential to scale, that already have some traction and that really just need, additional capital from us. And, even from us as an investor point of view, opening up markets for them, be it through, opening our network or finding, collaborations that can grow their business. But yes, so it's female founder focused and looking to make an impact on the continent.
That's fantastic. So for any entrepreneurs who feel that they fit the criteria, we invite you to reach out to Ms. Lib. Thank you so much for that. So I'll come back to you, Julian. And my question to you would be, how do you ensure that the data that's actually being fed in by the farmers is accurate, especially with immutability being such a key principle of blockchain? We want to ensure that all the information going in is a true depiction of either the amount of crops that they've gotten or the conditions in which they've been able to preserve their food. So how do you ensure that it is indeed accurate and true?
Oh, yeah, thanks for that question. I think this is probably one of the sort of open questions within this blockchain space at the moment, and possibly maybe not a solution that, maybe not a problem that blockchain is meant to solve. So I think in any blockchain implementation, there has to be some human controls and processes that are put in place to try and ensure that the data that's being entered into the ledger is accurate. Otherwise, as the saying goes, you have garbage coming in, you have garbage coming out. In our case, what we've tried to do is to introduce some form of attestation where you've got the farmer and you've got an intermediary, right? So let's say you are a retailer or a farmer's market or an agri-hub, an aggregator. What we're trying to do is we say that the farmer enters what they've harvested, right, as a start. And then after that, when they hand over the produce to an intermediary, the intermediary records what they have received from this farmer. And so eventually, because of this sort of two-way process where the farmer, in a sense, makes a claim that this is what I've harvested, and then when they deliver to an intermediary, the intermediary confirms that this is what I've received. Then we've got this level of assurance that this data is accurate. So this is the first part. We are exploring, one of the verticals we're exploring is a consumer-facing marketplace where consumers can order fresh produce boxes from these farmers, and again, the sort of similar idea is in play, that we have the farmer who records what they have harvested. We have the aggregation function where this produce is aggregated and it's confirmed that we've received so much from this farmer. And then when the consumer receives this, they can also then confirm the sort of quantity and possibly quality of what they received, which over time helps us to then sort of have if you think of when you're using when you order an Uber or you can see sort of the driver's rating. So over time we can then have like some form of a rating system for these smallholder farmers based on the sort of two-way attestation that is taking place. So not there is there are potentially gaps in having humans attest to the produce and so forth, but I think for now this is sort of one of the more cost-effective and from an economics and incentives point of view, one of the ways of managing the problem.
That's great, and I'm seeing a relation between what you said and what also Anzil said in the beginning, the importance of approaching or looking at these solutions from a human-centered point of view and taking it away from not just looking at the technical side of it, but also how to bring people at the grassroots level into the conversation and to understand the importance of these solutions. So I'll come back to you, Anzil, and you really shed light on how blockchain is being used in different use cases outside just the cryptocurrencies. So my question to you would be, what are the key challenges in relation to adoption, application, and regulation in the use cases that you shared with us earlier?
I just quickly wanted also to comment before I go into that on Julian's comments. We have a blockchain process where the way we ensure that information that's uploaded into the blockchain is credible is that we use a multi-signature consensus protocol where individuals in particular risk their reputation, if you like, on the basis of the type of information that they enter into the blockchain. So we use a proof of authority algorithm where people are empowered to, based on consensus, feed information into the blockchain. And in that way, we found that by involving the subject matter experts and giving the subject matter expert an opportunity to risk his or her reputation, that we do have people cooperating and working together to ensure that what they are putting in is not garbage, so that garbage is not coming out of the blockchain process. So it's interesting that people develop blockchain solutions and they have different ways of addressing the same issues. One of the things that we are working on, and we call our blockchain solution a credentialed marketplace, is that based on this multi-signature process, we can track and trace products, we can track and trace profits, we can track and trace data, and also have a view on the environment in terms of how we manage the blockchain adoption within the supply chain environment. Our experiences in South Africa, and as I mentioned, in particularly the beef and the wine sector, is that it depends a lot on the corporate culture. We find that, as I mentioned earlier on, that if people don't have the skill sets, they will resist the way you can work with them on applying and adopting blockchain in their organizations. And so what we do is, instead of selling the product, we try and sell the problem we solve. And we have workshops where we engage people on the technology, but in particular, not how the technology works. In the early stages of utilizing and adopting the email system away from writing letters, people didn't sell how the email worked. They sold the problems that the emails would resolve. And we find that a more credible way in terms of taking people along with us in this journey. So it is workshops that are about how the blockchain works in a particular context in terms of solving the challenges that they have in their day-to-day work environment. The way we address the application, and we have relationships with universities in China, in Australia, and in Singapore. And what we do in a South African context is we look at the training material, we look at the real world that it needs to be applied into, and we sort of adjust the training material to service a particular need. What we have found is that, of course, blockchain is not a one-fit-all solution. Blockchain as a technology has different applications, and it requires different adjustments for different contexts. So the solution for the beef industry, where we talk about a farm-to-fork solution, and the solution in the wine industry, where we talk about a grape-to-glass solution, is two different contexts and two different ways of applying the blockchain. At a regulatory level, it's very interesting because in the South African context, you have industry politics, you have industry challenges, and you have industry challenges in particular with national government. How do you bring blockchain into, for example, automating the BE process, where you link traceability, for example, to certification? How can you address blockchain and the sharing of information with respect to the POPI Act? It's becoming a big part of the regulatory framework of blockchain. And so all of these complexities, has forced us as a business to understand the cultural environment, the humane environment first, to go and have an assessment about what that means in relation to the workplace, and then work backwards to the developers to inform them about the real world, so that whenever a blockchain development solution or solution is developed, that they have insight in terms of what the real world is all about. A lot of the blockchain investments are in blockchain projects that are developed by developers that are, they have their own layers of inference, their own sort of understanding of the world, and they develop solutions according to how they see fit. And a big percentage of these solutions often fail, and lots of money is wasted upfront because the focus is also always on the back end. You know, from a South African perspective, as you may know, South Africa has a dual economy. It has a first or a formal, and it has an informal economy. And the formal economy particularly is white owned, very technology driven, and the informal economy is predominantly black, low skill sets. And you know, the majority of black South Africans that operate in the informal sector is unbanked and underbanked, you know, and we have to understand how we can use and evolve from a blockchain perspective, a blockchain adoption perspective, a blockchain regulation perspective, and also an application perspective, how we can empower people with this emerging peer-to-peer economy, how we can empower people to utilize the technology to their advantage. This intermediation, which is what blockchain facilitates, in other words, taking out the intermediary, is, in my opinion, the greatest economic equalizer currently in the world, because it allows people to transact with one another over the internet without needing a third party. People can exchange value without needing a bank. People can exchange properties without using expensive lawyers, you know, and one has to understand from that perspective, you know, where people are low skilled, people are lesser educated, you know, how the technology can advance their livelihoods as well. So when we talk about adoption and application and regulation from a South African context and even an African context, it's not just amongst us, the educated, you know, that works in the corporate space. It's also, and in particular, you know, how the technology is going to make a difference at ground level, how the technology is going to address poverty, how the technology is, for example, going to address institutional poverty, the history that Africa has gone through. And we have a chance now because, you know, data currently is the most valuable commodity. And as Africans, you know, we are prosumers. In other words, we consume and we generate data. And if we can understand that blockchain, for example, Bitcoin has no infrastructure, has no management, but one Bitcoin is worth more than an ounce of gold, you can understand the importance of data. And so if we as a people, as a nation, as a continent can understand how this technology can enable us to make usage of data as an empowering source or force through this intermediation, we also need to understand application, adoption, and regulation at all levels, not just at a level where we are educated or we're operating in the first economy or we're operating in corporate environment, but particularly, you know, from an African perspective, where people are subjected to institutional poverty, how this technology would lead us, you know, out of these issues, away from, you know, being kept behind. We must be careful. Also, lastly, I want to say that as educated people, we don't create environments for ourselves. We don't create new wealth for a few people. We must take this technology further away for many people to service the greater common good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insights. You mentioned data, and I got really excited because I'm a big data enthusiast. But I'd like us to go back to something you said, and it was along the lines of the importance of developers moving away from developing in isolation to really getting hands-on and understanding the user's needs. So I'd like to come to you, Iman. You've been a blockchain developer for very many years. And my question to you would be, what are some of the changes or trends that you've experienced in the field or in the technology of blockchain, especially in Africa, in the African context?
Oh, thanks so much for the question. Before answering this question, I would like to add to comment or add more point of view about the adoption point that Anzal has explained. It's not only to provide solutions and solve problems. In my opinion, the importance of adoption for normal users, it's to protect our future. If anyone start to read about Web3 and the new generation of internet, you always see this title. We want to take our internet back. And if we don't realize the value of this revolution and how we can protect it, some solution will come and steal this technology, and they will build a solution that for the first glance you'll see, wow, it's amazing, they are solving a problem, but guess what, they are making money from our data. So we need to increase the awareness of normal users and about the value of the technology and how the technology will solve a problem and how we can protect ourselves from being utilized. At the beginning, some big names they were providing a solution for free, and we were so happy with that. And at the end, now it's big companies, and they are making lots of money, and they are utilizing our data, and no one can avoid or skip from using these tools. So we want to protect our technology. We want to protect our future, not only for us, but for the next generation. We don't want to something like Bitcoin that is stealing our money, for example. Backing to what the changes that happened in the from a developer perspective. To be honest, lots of things are happening every second. So we turned from technology-centric to people-centric. At the beginning, we were fascinated about building solutions that's high-techy, or how trying to put blockchain technology in everything. And now lots of projects focusing more on providing a solution using blockchain technology. Also, at the beginning, when I started, for example, less resources, lots of unstable tools. Now the technology is much more mature, so the journey for the any blockchain developer will be much easier. Also, more resources. Now the focus is more on communities and build community, not only for the reason I've mentioned, to secure the technology itself, because the success of any blockchain network or any tool is by the adoption. And the more people adopt your solution, that means that you are more successful. But also to secure the technology, and also to onboard lots of users. What else? I guess I have touched the main chance. Also, the for Africa as well, lots of solution is built, and the African problem and African users were the main target user for them. For example, Celo, for example, the blockchain network, they build their solution with main focus with taking in their consideration the Africa content at the beginning, how to empower normal user from there, how they can use blockchain technology in their phones without having to buy high-tech devices, for example. I've seen lots of amazing projects. Lots of them are here in the panel, provided by the panelists here, and lots of developers from from Africa. So the more through the time, lots of solutions, lots of developers are coming from Africa. Thank you.
That's very encouraging to hear. Thank you so much for sharing the great insights. I'd come back to you, Lieb, and ask how would you say you are optimizing traditional fund structure using blockchain technology?
Yeah, thanks, Claire. Yeah, I think, for us, the way we viewed it is we really see blockchain technology and this, this whole revolution as being the future. So why would we try and build our fund on something that's existing today when we can really build on a platform for the future? So that's really why we've decided to adopt blockchain technology. Whether it's, just being more efficient on costs, that in itself has been a major, major advantage for us. The time to set up. And I think what's important to note is that all the existing requirements can really be built using this token structure and using smart contracts. So why would we still go and try and set up a fund, using all these expenses and all of these things when we can really use the blockchain technology to do so? So really, that's why we've decided to go this route. And we think we will see more funds doing a similar, approaching it from a similar approach. So yeah, we're excited to be doing it for Africa and for female founders.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. So we began by talking about how there's so many use cases in which blockchain can be used. So my question to you, Julian, would be, what's your stand on how blockchain could transform or disrupt the agricultural sector in Africa?
Yeah, I think I'd like to build on Lieb's, previous mention there that, why build on traditional infrastructure when you can build on this infrastructure for the future, right? So, with us at Footprint, what we like to say we're doing is we are helping simplify, data collection for smaller farmers, connecting to markets and to services. So for the services bit, right, the idea is, if we can maybe fast forward 3, 4, 5 years from now, we initially are using blockchain for record keeping, creating these credible historic records of operations for farmers. But at the same time, we're already linking them to the blockchain, right? 4 or 5 years from now, we want to be in a position where we're offering them financial services, either ourselves or we are offering a means for external providers to use our platform to offer these farmers financial services that are based on the blockchain, right? Because the farmers are already storing their data now on blockchain. So I think to answer your question around, what are some of the, what is some of the potential to improve agriculture in Africa? I think not just from a record keeping, but even from a transactional and finance point of view, that we suddenly have a means to offer microloans, to offer insurance to these smaller farmers using infrastructure of the future, which is generally faster, cheaper, and more efficient. So I think this is one of the potentials there. The other potential, I think, is also just around increasing food safety and quality, because if you can prove reliably that this produce, if we can get to a place where any food you consume, you can reliably tell where it's coming from and how it's been grown, this is a massive leap in terms of food safety and quality. I think from an African point of view, though, so with traceability and quality and safety, I think part of the challenges that we've seen in our research is that regulation in Africa is not as stringent as regulation overseas around food safety and traceability and quality, right? Which I think if regulation here, at least I'm speaking from South Africa, if regulation can move forward, can advance, that would also help, with the adoption of some of these solutions. But yeah, ultimately, I think if I was to summarize this, I would say that, blockchain and agriculture in Africa, I think we have the potential to see new data-driven business models emerging and really empowering the man at the bottom who's responsible for some of this food we're eating. Thanks.
That's great. And you brought up a really good point about regulation. And I'd just like to ask Anzil, with your experience working within South Africa and also in Australia, what would you say are the key differences between the regulatory frameworks in the different regions in terms of use and scalability of the blockchain? Sorry, Anzil, you're still unmuted. Thanks.
Yeah. I think the adoption of blockchain globally is faster than it is in South Africa. What is encouraging from a South African perspective is that Don Tapscott and his son Alex Tapscott, who has started the Blockchain Research Institute, have recently announced a relationship with Standard Bank in South Africa to introduce a Blockchain Research Institute in South Africa for Africa. Globally, in governments like France, people are moving towards the adoption of blockchain. Mega companies like Walmart has done it already a few years ago. The space is changing, job descriptions globally. The growth from a career point of view is exponentially globally. And so those things are very encouraging trends. Australia and the organizations that we are working with, Queensland University of Technology, is doing increasingly good work around food security. They are releasing some of the best research papers that they're sharing quite willingly. Our solution, for example, is not just applied in South Africa. The Australians have also rolled it out in the beef sector in Argentina. They're looking at the wine sector in Chile. They're doing some sterling work in America. And the way we do this, for example, is that we have a common sandbox solution, a blockchain solution that is adopted in many different parts of the world, where we are seeking for entrepreneurs. We are seeking to work with government institutions. In South Africa, we are in discussions with the CSIR to look at how we can use our sandbox to empower small-scale farmers in many different sectors, including Moringa, which is a health product that originated from India. And so we find, encouragingly so, that attitudes are changing. The use cases that are coming out globally through Deloitte and PwC and all these major management companies are also very encouraging. And so, yes, I think the horse has bolted the stable. I think we're moving to a phase where it's rather a matter of adapt or die. In our view, blockchain is the foundational technology of the fourth industrial revolution. And so if we are going to be active players from a South African perspective, we need to think about how we're going to deal with these type of issues around adoption and application. In South Africa, there is an organization called the South African National Blockchain Association, or SANBA. They are working with the CSIR to look at all kinds of blockchain solutions, which is also encouraging. It has been sanctioned by the South African government. I haven't seen many projects coming from their way, but it's encouraging that people are coming together and following international paths in terms of where this technology can lead our economy. I think for us, part of our objective is to especially influence the education context. My son is in grade 6, and he was writing an exam about how Da Vinci was creating a flying machine in the 1500s. What must our kids do with that type of education? Why must our children learn about flying machines that were created in the 14th century when the fourth industrial revolution is exploding all around us? What are we doing about that? And the world is showing us that they're looking at different ways of empowering children, of empowering communities, based on these user cases. So it's very encouraging to see that South Africa, and from what I hear now on the panel, that we are thinking in terms of how we can collectively work together. I see already a lot of synergies between everybody on the panel. I'd like to stay in touch even after this, so we can exchange ideas on technology and how we can work with one another to take blockchain forward. But the use cases, as I mentioned, is very encouraging, and there's lots of lessons to be learned and lots of lessons to be taken into consideration to move forward as a continent.
Thank you so much for your point. And I think based on what you have said, there are very many synergy points that I also have seen through this conversation. And it just shows that the success of blockchain use cases and projects are solely dependent on forming strategic partnerships. So perhaps as we wind up, I'd invite you all our panelists, share how do you think we can encourage more stakeholders to participate in this shift? So be it smallholder farmers, be it people at the grassroots levels, users of these solutions and applications, policymakers, however you would like to take the question, you feel free to do so. But how do you think we can encourage more stakeholders to participate? Okay, we can start with Anzil. Thank you for unmuting.
I think we should be open in sharing our experiences. I think we shouldn't hold our technologies to ourselves. I think we need to move towards centers of excellence. We need to talk to the young people about, what this fourth industrial revolution is all about, and in particular, the role that blockchain can play as a foundational technology. We are very keen to share ideas. I like, for example, what Julian is doing. We would love to, and I said to him, we'd like to exchange some ideas. I also like the financial model that Liba was talking about. And I'd love to talk to you, Iman, about how we can share research with one another, and see how we can contextualize it from an African perspective. I think Africa is the future. I think this intermediation, as I mentioned early on, is a great opportunity, a very good opportunity to get rid of institutional poverty. And it's time that we come together and we start igniting this peer-to-peer economy that's driven by blockchain technology. Numbers mean everything. The way we presume data is important. And why should, for example, a Mark Zuckerberg use our data on Facebook and create substantial value? It's our data. It's what we generate. It's time that we take the data and we find ways and means to empower ourselves and the next generation to come by sharing and working together.
I want to I want to emphasize what Anzal has mentioned, working on the grassroots, the importance of education and talking to the people to about the technology. Because it's not only blockchain is the foundation of the fourth revolution, but also this technology is innovative technology, and it will enable any innovation solution. And in Africa, we have, to be honest, we have lots of problems, and we as African, we are who are suffering from this problem. We feel it. We live with this problem, and we are the most people who can solve this problem, and we just need enabling tools to use to solve these problems. And for innovation, innovation can give us two things. The first one is solving real problem, and the second one, making our life better. Of course, by solving problem, but if it might be I don't have problem, but I want to be to have a better life. For example, touching the innovation part, the way we can increase adoption is like by opening the space for anyone to like bring very amazing, innovative ideas. Blockchain is, yes, it's for the agriculture part, for healthcare, for education, but guess what? I'm pretty sure that the next year, for example, we'll see lots of new fields that, or new spaces that we didn't even hear about. For example, if we like talking about NFT 2 years ago, we won't like imagine how this NFT would like be used today. NFTs will enable lots of normal users to digitize and monetize their work. They can sell as an author. I can sell my book, for example. I can without going through any third intermediary or third party to sell to sell my book instead of me. I can, if I am a traveler, I love taking photos. If you're a sixth grade child and Zal love to take photo, like he's an artist, he can digitize and monetize his work. Not only that, for example, in StartFi, we are like giving the people with community, and this is what, because we believe in community, we are providing them a way to raise funds to kick off their funds. It's like an idea. One of the projects are doing here, and I'm pretty sure lots of things are there. For example, reality shares. For example, I can, as an author or original or the issuer of a certain image or picture, I can, like using blockchain technology, I can guarantee that I will take my sustainable income from each resale of this NFT, for example. I just want to mention this as an example of innovative ideas that blockchain would enable us to do. And as I mentioned, we are in Africa, we have lots of problems, and we are the best one to solve it because we are the one who are living these problems. And we just need innovative tools to enable us to solve this problem.
Great.
Awesome. I'd love to pick up just on something that Iman said. I think the potential is just, it's there, and it's waiting for us to take advantage of, especially when we look at Africa and the creator economy. I mean, all the artists we have, just the ability that blockchain has to open up, them being able to monetize and truly own their art and earn money from it and be the true, final user, or not user, but at least, having that ownership. I think it's a really important piece. So what I'd like to say is just to encourage more people to explore the space. Don't be intimidated by the complex technology. There are people out there that can be a bridge between the technology and your use case. So, join communities, learn things online. YouTube is amazing, and there are amazing communities out there. So educate yourself and try not to be too intimidated, and find people that can help you, because I think we need to get ahead of this. It's not going away. Eman is there. She's lifting up her hand.
I want like to emphasize one point. Blockchain community is very welcome community. I don't remember any time I like seek help. I couldn't find lots of amazing potential are there from the global community and local communities. When I started to like think about Arabs and blockchain and organizing the first Arab blockchain week, and I didn't expect the kind of support I got when I just said, hey guys, I want to collaborate. Everyone is welcoming the opportunity to collaborate. Mm-hmm. And to touch the new innovation. It's not only for the artists. I'm talking about the woman sitting in her house in, mm-hmm. for example, in Egypt's conservative society here. She want to like get more money to provide to secure a better income for her family. She can do it. She can sell her product using blockchain with no intermediary, with no limit. I think that Africa is rich in resource, and we can do a lot. Yeah. And I always say this sentence: for the first time ever, we developing countries and developed countries are in the same stage. We are exploring the space.
Love
We
it.
are like in race
Yeah.
between, and not only race. It's like we are working together, collaborating together to make our life better.
Yeah, I love the passion. I love the way you express yourself. And I want to share one thing with you. I was a political activist in the 80s in the fight against apartheid, and we had one slogan that we lived by, and that was each one teach one. So that's what we need to do. Each one teach one. Let's teach one another. Let's engage one another, and let's
Yeah.
empower one another so we can
Yes.
create a better Africa for everyone.
Yes. Sure.
Thank you so much for that. Julian, would you like to add to that?
Uh,
Yeah.
Sure, thanks, Jay. I think for me, it's just two things. The first is just going back to some of the work that Imane is doing with like building communities and translating some of the materials. I think these are some of the like the practical ways of opening up the space. Maybe in South Africa, stuff like having more activities in the universities and related spaces where there can be more hackathons and more evangelists to just try and help people to become more aware of this. I think this is one way of opening up the space. Personally, I've been involved in a few initiatives where we've mentored aspiring developers about blockchain technology and so forth. So I think that's one practical way. The second, I think, more from a technical point of view, is to develop solutions that are not complex, where you actually hide away the blockchain component, and for normal user they just access it. They just access the solution as if it's just like the way they access their WhatsApp or something, and that helps to overcome this hurdle of this is complicated. This is something that I'm not familiar with. So those are my two closing points. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you all so much. I love the energy and the passion in the room, and it's sad that we actually have to wind up or to start to wind up. But I think my biggest takeaway from this conversation is the fact that blockchain has massive potential of helping us solve some of the most pressing problems in the continent and creating such immense opportunities for all of us. And I'm so glad and grateful that you all shared your great insights. And thank you so much for the great work that you're doing. At this point, I would like to hand the mic over to Kayode, who is a director of the Africa Blockchain Institute, to close the session for us. Welcome, Kayode.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for making time out to come to this panel discussion. Very, very insightful, especially going with Anzil philosophy. I mean, teach one, bring one. If I'm correct, I mean, quite very impactful, and we should make sure we spread this notion across abroad when it comes to biotechnology. And also in terms of stakeholders, I mean, not necessarily going to be a tech person, but those in academia, those in healthcare sector, automobile. I mean, as vast as possible, we should make sure we try to engage them when it comes to blockchain technology. And also, we'd like to thank the SA Innovation Summit for collaborating and allow this blockchain panel to come to life. Again, thank you very much for coming to today's panel. I'll hand over to Tarisuru as we close for today's panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me this honor. I wish you all the best, and I'm so grateful to meet all of you and meet amazing people like my colleagues here in the panel. Thank you so much, Kayode, for inviting me and giving me this honor again.
Thank you very much for that wonderful session. Absolutely fascinating to hear about how can blockchain be used across industries, adopted across sectors and different areas of society in order to transform Africa. Truly, we are at a cusp of a revolution. And it was very great to hear from the experts who are at the forefront of this wild, wild west industry. I see that online we are about to shift over to the financial inclusivity for Africa session, talking about how to be more inclusive for small businesses. But I do want to take one or two questions if there are online. If there's anyone wants to pose a question, we do have one of the speakers available with us here today in the room. So if there is a question online, please ask now or forever hold your peace, and perhaps the speaker will be able to to come back to you shortly. So while we do wait, maybe I'll ask you, Julian, small one, which is Cardano or Ethereum. Where's your money? Julian says it's in Cardano. Certainly, we do want to know why, but yeah, if you can please enlighten us, Julian, why Cardano over Ethereum?
Sure, thanks for that. With Cardano, there's a very strong academic research component, a very clear roadmap of where the project is going, and very clear communications about what they're doing. So excited to see what utility comes out of the Cardano blockchain. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Julian. I see no questions streaming in online, but if some of them do, please feel free to engage in the chat. Thank you all for joining the session. We will now shift over to the Financial Inclusivity for Africa recording from earlier today that didn't stream online. So please stay tuned if you're interested, and if you have just joined, welcome, and we'll now be shifting over to that session. Thank you very much.